Welcome everyone. Anita, Barb, Chantel, Crystal, another Crystal, Samir, Utan, Valerie, William, and Samani. Thank you all for taking your precious Sunday time to join me and do this Parents as Partners conference. That's amazing. Who knew you loved your kids so much? Who knew it? Oh my gosh. Amazing people in the room. I know this is virtual, so we're doing the best we can. Welcome to the office. Try to keep as much green as I can in the room, breathing fresh oxygen as I forget to breathe when I speak. Okay, so if you don't know me, if you didn't read the bio, that's cool. My name's Scott St. Marie. I have quite a few roles in the work I do today. So I have experience working with the Canadian Mental Health Association, with Twitter, with Facebook and Snapchat and Pinterest, as I worked at an advertising agency for quite some time. I also work with the Schizophrenia Society of Canada, and I'm a consultant with Health Canada when it comes to their mental health strategy with youth and with cannabis use as well. But the reason I love social media and mental health so much, these combos, is because I have lived experience with anxiety and depression as I share my story, but I'm also have experience with Twitter and working behind the scenes with these platforms. And also more behind the scenes, I'm a creator myself. So I've reached millions of people on YouTube, through Instagram, through my podcast. And when I speak to children, this is what grabs their attention. It's like, okay, I'm going to let you know what happens behind the scenes from a creator standpoint. The people you watch, your kids watch, I know what kind of happens behind the curtain. So that's why I love combining these two things of emotional well-being and social media, working on the platform side, my personal emotional health side, and the creator side that I'm on as well. So I'd like to bring all of these pieces together, share what I've learned in my work, presenting to schools all across the world, especially Ontario though, and share some things that I think will really be useful to all of you parents when it comes to social media. Because the classic question is like, what do I do? They're on their phone all the time. Should they be on social media? What age is appropriate? Should they be posting? Should their account be private? They're doing group texts and then there's cyberbullying. There's a lot going on there, right? So I like to simplify it really by letting you know how the platforms work first, and then we're going to get into the mental health side. So we're going to go into internet safety, social media safety with part 1, and then part 2, which will be a little longer. Let's talk about emotional health for our kids, what social media is doing to the brain and why it's so important that we understand this as parents. The good news is you're going to know more than your kids now about tech. You're going to have the leg up on them finally. Yes, when it comes to technology. So I'm going to share my screen here and throughout the presentation, everyone, man, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat. And then when it's Q&A time, let's unmute and let's use our voices if you'd like and ask questions that way. Okay. So you can all see, I think, my face and also my screen here, the presentation. So remember, the first thing we're going to do is talk about the internet safety. This is how all social media platforms work. Okay, this is the basic monetization model. Okay, so let's say your son or daughter, they download TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, even WhatsApp, Facebook, doesn't matter what it is, Snapchat. All these platforms work in the exact same way, and they all want the same thing. So first of all of these platforms are free. Start at the top here. All of these platforms are free. I'm just going to use the word Facebook throughout the entire presentation, but when I say Facebook, I mean all social media platforms that you use and that your kids use. But I'll use Facebook for simplicity's sake. So all these platforms are free. And the first thing they want to do is they want to gather your child's personal data. And a lot of kids know this, and you know this, when we talk about personal data, when you sign up for Facebook, it's like, okay, they'll get my age, the demographic, where I'm from, if I'm single, if it's complicated, right? So they want all of that kind of data, but it goes far, far beyond that kind of age, gender, and where you live data, which we'll get into in a minute. The next thing these platforms do for your kids is they tailor their feeds so specifically. So every time you and your child go on their phone to look at TikTok videos, their tailored feed, what they see is different from yours, different from their friends at school. And what does this mean? You've probably heard the term algorithm before. It means their feed is tailored specifically to their interest. So every single time they open their phone, it gains their attention in an instant. Because this is what our brains want all the time. They want novelty. We want something new, not too much where it scares us and change is intimidating and we fear change and that creates anxiety, but novel enough that Facebook, TikTok, YouTube know exactly what we want to see before we do. And that's why these things are so addicting, that every time we go back on it is something new and something fresh and something we love that we didn't even know existed before. So we're training our minds and we are actually thinking that we're actually learning things that we didn't even know we were interested in before. And that's what these are doing for us. And once these platforms gain our children's attention, once we're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok for a long time, well, then they have all of this data collected on our kids that they then sell to advertisers. And that's what I did at Twitter and Facebook. Right? So I would gather all of this data from kids and I'd say Nike, Coca-Cola, all of these brands, here's all of this data that you want, all of these children's interests, and you can target your ads towards them specifically. So when your kids are 13 and then they turn 25 and they buy a pair of Off-Whites or they buy a pair of Nikes, they have no idea why. That's advertising 101. It's because we implanted a seed when they're 11 years old. And this is really easy with social media. And then when they're 20 years old, they buy something and they have no idea what triggered that. So this is the social media strategy and model for every single free app that you can download. This is exactly how it works. And more specifically, this is how it works from a creator standpoint. So let's see. I just want to look at a comment there. You can all hear me. I'm glad you can all hear me. I thought there was a tech issue. So addiction, strong word, but necessary in this case. When we think of addiction, what do we mean? It's usually, defining addiction means that in the short term, it seems like it's doing us good. But if we look at long-term consequences, it's doing more harm than good. Drinking alcohol numbs emotion, helps us chill and sleep in the short term, long-term liver damage, all of this type of thing. So you look at addiction, is social media helping us feel less lonely in the short term, making us feel connected in the short term, but long-term, what's it doing? So I think addiction is real because we keep going back to our phones with a minute of boredom when we don't know what to do with ourselves. We can't let our mind go idle and seek new ideas just by sitting there. So with social media, and this can be used for TikTok and YouTube too, here's what happens behind the scenes with me as a creator. And this is, again, why you have to understand why our kids keep going back to the phone. It's not their fault that they keep going back to the device. When I became a YouTube creator years back, YouTube says, Scott, you're getting a lot of subscribers. We want you to become a partner with us, a YouTube partner. And TikTok does this too, and Snapchat. I say, okay, great. They say, okay, sign this contract. We're going to give you this money. But here's what we need from you, Scott. We need you to upload videos daily. And I said, daily? I got a full-time job. My gosh. Okay, Scott, another thing we need you to do is we need you to create really long videos on YouTube. And with TikTok, it's going to be a little different. We need you to make videos at least 10 minutes long, very engaging, and we need you to make sure that the children watching your channel watch at least 60% of that video. Now, what happens when they watch more of your video is we're going to rank your video higher so more people watch it when they search for specific terms. Okay, you with me so far? So as a creator, I want to obey what a platform wants from me because that will up my ranking, which means I get more views, which means Scott gets more money. Good. And that's behind the mind of every single creator and what your children watch. The creator wants more people to see their content, which means they're going to upload more, which means they're going to have to make their videos way more engaging. And you see this on TikTok, especially. It's not that they need to do daily video uploads. On YouTube, they need to put it, or on TikTok, they need to upload about 12 a week. And then you have text pop-ups and everything is subtitled now. So it's super engaging. And now they have music in the background with trending music or voice notes and voice clips. So this is very stimulating content for adults and children. And it's incentivized for me as the creator to make videos more engaging so I get more money. And then it helps the platform because the platform then gets more people watching the videos, tailoring specific advertisements to those who are watching it. And the platform makes more money that way through these ad agencies. So Nike pays Facebook to get Nike ads on the platform. That's how it works. But the only loser here is the consumer. So the name of this talk is social media harmful or helpful? Well, of course, it's both. But in this sense, if we're not using the platforms in a way that helps us, then the platform wins. I win because I'm getting more money and more views. But your child scrolling aimlessly through their phone doesn't really win. And it all works through something that looks like this. When I worked with Facebook, my job was to put this pixel, this snippet of JavaScript on websites. And this code, although Apple changed its policy a little, and if any of you know about that, I can talk about it more in detail. But what this pixel does is it still tracks your kids everywhere they go online, everywhere, which is why it's so important for me to do presentations to kids. So usually, and this is just not the case this weekend, but usually I'll present to your kids first at their school. I'll go through all of this and then I present to parents, and then you can have a conversation with your children as you're on the same level and know these things together. So this is called a Facebook Pixel. TikTok has one, Snapchat has one, WhatsApp, all of these companies, Facebook owns WhatsApp. And the point of this is to track everything we do online. Everything you do online, everything your kids do, Facebook, TikTok, they're monitoring it all. Everything. Every website you go to, how long you scroll for, if you add something to cart, if you click on a certain button, how long you're on the page for, if you watch a YouTube video, if you comment on it, if you share, if you add it to your favorites, everything. Every YouTube video, every TikTok video. Did you pause it? Did you play it? Did you fast forward? Did you share it? Did you screenshot it? Everything also is, if your kids have iPhones or if you have an iPhone, Facebook reads your iMessages and so does Apple. So the tailoring, remember before, the tailoring of feeds, the third one here.
You used it sometime and didn't wash it. I need to use it. I'm not arguing with you. You wash it out with soap and water.
I'll just mute someone there. We're arguing about laundry. That's a day in the life, man. This is life.
Wash it out. You used it.
I can mute. How can I mute? Oh gosh.
You can open the participant list and you can do it there. Find them in the participant list.
Yeah, I'm clicking, but.
And then if you hover, you should be able to hover on the mic and mute them.
It usually works that way. Although I really am interested in who gets to do the laundry here.
It says no one signed in as host, so you might not be signed in as host.
Exactly.
Oh,
I need to claim the host, whoever the host is.
I said wash it out.
I have the option to claim host, so I'm guessing you do too if you click on participants.
Yes, and then you need a 6 to 10 digit host key number.
Oh, yes. Can't help there. Sorry.
Ah, shoot.
I never.
Okay, yes.
Oh, that's strange. Okay.
Let's see. There's no other way.
I need to use it. I don't have time to wait for your passive aggressive self.
If you give me a moment, I'm going to see if there's a key in my email that I may have missed. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Because this is the safety part, but I really want to get into the mental health piece, which ties it really all together, which is this all is meaningless if we don't talk about how this influences our thoughts and behaviors and our kids' emotions.
Use my thing, and your nasty self didn't wash it. I want to clean it out
Host key.
If you don't wash it out, you just leave. Hey, I need to use it. I'm waiting to use it.
Hey, Nathaniel's mom, are you there? Hello? Nathaniel's mom? Are you there? Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for muting. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. So you think about this trifecta of a platform, a creator, and then your child, right? And who's really in this relationship? Do we need to break up with one of them? Do we need to change the relationship we have with the creators that we see, with the platforms that we use? Of course, of course. Gluten made me feel terrible. I had to recently get rid of eating gluten. It was a tough relationship. It was an abusive relationship. It wasn't doing good things to my body. I had to break up with gluten. And some of us need to change a relationship with these platforms. And it's an unfair game. And I want your kids to win this game. And I want you as parents to win at this game. And it's a game that between artificial intelligence and machine learning, we're kind of losing because we have all of these algorithms and thousands of data points where this pixel is collecting all of this information on our children and making these phones so enticing to scroll through and to see new things that we really, really enjoy. Because if I go on TikTok and I see what's there, it's fun. It's bright, it's colorful, it's funny, it's interesting. You learn things in 15 seconds. It's hard to say no. It's not meant to be easy through this machine learning. So we have to realize that it's not a fair game. It's not. So we can't blame our kids for wanting to pick up the phone. We can't blame them for wanting to text more, to join all of these platforms. It's novel, it's new, it's what's here today. So realizing that it's here today and this mode of this medium is here to stay for at least quite some time. So how do we deal with this in a moment? But just to let you know, when we're uploading photos and videos, a lot of parents are concerned not only with social media and what's public, but also using iMessage and Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. And our kids are on group chats, a lot of them. And we need to know that there is no photo or text that you can delete once it's sent. Millions of servers worldwide. There's a few in Canada that go across the globe, but the big ones are in New Jersey and Chicago, even Atlanta. These places are massive. The servers of trillions and trillions of terabytes. And what happens here is everything we send doesn't just go to our friend, a picture that we send. Of course not. They're all copies. You send an email, you still see the email in your sent box, and then there's a copy that goes to your friend. We're copying things all the time. You take a picture, you send it, the picture isn't gone from your phone, it's copied to another. And everything we send goes through these servers and ends up in your friend's phone. Okay, so if we send an inappropriate photo to someone, one of our friends, if our kids do that, it's not just gone. And even if it's deleted on Snapchat or on each other's phones, if this was an inappropriate photo, what happens is we can call the police and we can retrieve this photo. And we need to let our kids know this too, that everything you send can't actually be deleted. Anything appropriate, inappropriate. We can look this up if that actually happens. And this is what happens with online grooming. Which this is the safety piece of, okay, we have social media that's public. There are certain rules and regulations with how to use the platforms, but there's still people out there that are looking and preying on children to make mistakes. And this is why having phones in a bedroom is the worst thing for online grooming and kids doing things that they regret later. So with the Canadian Centre of Child Protection, there's thousands of reports per month of inappropriate photos being sent to these predators and children, to their friends and children in private chats. And a lot of these photos, and they know this from scanning these photos, they're all taken in the bedroom. They're all taken in closed quarters where their parents can't see. And I know this has been hard with COVID because sometimes that's the only place kids can work. We just need to be aware that this is happening. Okay. So 80% of these photos are of girls and under 12 years old. There's 100,000 images found worldwide every single month of inappropriate photos shared. So I know we need to have these awkward conversations, which we'll get to at the end here, but this is the reality. We didn't think it would happen in Ontario or even in Canada, but there's 3,000 public reports, which means even people are reporting this. If our kids upload something inappropriate to TikTok and it's public, that's a public report of someone saying, whoa, how did this get through? How did this get through an algorithm here? How did TikTok allow them to post this nude photo? And it's publicly reported, 3,000 per month in Canada. We need to be aware of this. So it's not only the addiction of use, it's how we're using these platforms too. And what are the limitations? How can we have conversations with our children to say, yes, that's appropriate, and no, that's not? Yes, that's self-expression. No, that's the means to regret. Okay. So here's one thing that you can do with your kids today, if you'd like, to show them how much data is being collected. It's good for children to experience this, to know this. There's a few things that I talk to them about as well when I do presentations to kids. I don't have a specific link, but if you're taking notes, I'll share something with you after. So this is the first thing you can do, okay, to show them. You can go to this website here. It's just, you can just Google, it's called Google Takeout. And what this will show you and your children is how much information is being collected on you on a second-to-second basis when you go online. Google collects everything. And even if your kids are smart and they say, I'm using a VPN, a virtual private network, doesn't matter. Oh, but I'm using incognito mode, Scott. Doesn't matter. Oh, Scott, well, I look up porn and my parents don't know because I clear the history. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This will show you everything. And this is good for you to look at if you'd like to, and to go through it with your kids. Now, of course, I don't know the breach of privacy there, and that relationship between you and your child is yours. So if they're looking at pornography and they cleared the history, it's going to show up here on Google Takeout, which is called a data dump. Also, this link below here, privacy.apple.com, you contact Apple. It takes about a week and you say, Apple, I want all my data back. I want to see what you've been collecting. They send you everything. Between Google and Apple, what they say is, hey, listen, we're going to collect everything. We're going to spy on you for everything you do online, same as social media platforms. But if you ask for your data back, yeah, we'll give it to you. Well, that's okay. So this is what it looks like, the Google, and it's the same with Apple. And again, this is something you go through with your children to say, listen, you thought you were doing stuff privately because you're in a silo and you think because this phone is within your hand in your pocket, it's somehow excluded from the rest of the world. No, it's connected. It's all invisible. We can't see it. So this is to help our kids understand. Every website you went to, if you use Google Chrome, it doesn't matter if it was Safari, it's all here in this folder. All contacts you have, whether deleted or there, everything you shared on Google Drive, every bookmark, everything you did in the Apple or Google Play Store is here. Everything you downloaded, everything you asked your Google Home about, where you went, all your location history is there. If your GPS was on, it's all there. Same as under Maps, same as all of your tasks. And then it's cut off by this banner here. There's a folder called YouTube where you can see every single YouTube video that your child watched, how long they watched it for, when they paused it, did they favorite it, did they share it? Everything is here in what's called Google Takeout, and it's the same for privacy.apple.com. So this is a fun thing you can do to actually not only say, hey, guess what, Samantha, you know these companies are collecting all your data, and she says, yeah, I know, but no, look, like go through it with me. Let's see. Wow, that's incredible. So this is a good exercise to do. Something that's not on the slides here is another thing you can do with your kids, which I'd highly recommend, is download, it's a Chrome extension. If you're using Google Chrome, it also works on it works on Safari and it works on Mozilla, depending on what browser you use. It's called the Facebook Pixel Helper. the Facebook Pixel Helper. And that's an extension. And remember, I showed you this. And what this does is it's just a little extension on your browser that shows you every website you go to. It shows you how many things Facebook is tracking about you. It's another cool thing for your kids to see. TikTok has one, Twitter has one, etc. Facebook owns Instagram, so Instagram, same thing. So this is another thing that your kids can see, like, okay, I'm on this website looking for shoes or clothes or having some fun shopping. And oh my gosh, Facebook's looking at that about me and they're tracking that. And then they'll realize, oh, now I went back on the platform and my feed has changed because I was on that website that they were tracking. It's important not only to explain these connections to kids, but for them to see it and experience it for themselves. It's not to get mad at these platforms, but it's for them to say, whoa, that's a little creepy. Where's my boundary of privacy? And did they overstep that? It's weird how they knew all of that about me. It's weird that I'm seeing this in my timeline now. You know what? I don't know if that's right. So it's about creating these boundaries and self-worth for our kids. So what do we do? I'm going to share what's called a phone contract. A lot of parents have found this useful, as I've shared it in the past. If your kids own a phone, if they have a data plan, if they just use Wi-Fi, if it's an iPod Touch, if it's not, if it's an iPad, it doesn't matter. If they have their own piece of tech, this is something that I'd love to share with you. It's like a family cell phone agreement. And I'll send you the PDF and you can edit it to whatever your liking is. And you sit down with your kids and you say, let's go through this. I'm giving you a phone, which means you're adopting a sense of responsibility, which is very important for children. It's ownership. This phone isn't a right, it's a privilege. So if you want the phone, let's go through these things. Because guess what? If your kids are under 18, that means you sign the cell phone plan, which means if they do something inappropriate and the police are called, you're the one who takes the blame. They couldn't sign for it. They're under 18. So this is your phone. It's not theirs. And for a lot of parents, they're actually paying for the plan as well. So this is a privilege for them. And it's really great to go through this for them to, again, take it seriously. Like, this is a big deal. I know everyone has one in school. I know you're texting. I know it's all for fun, but it's still a big deal. Talk about the rotary phone we grew up with. Talk about how technology has progressed so much. Like, hey, Samantha, this is a pretty big deal. The tech you have in your pocket used to fill up an entire building. This is big. So you can edit all of these, but look at just number 3. I will hand in my phone to one of my parents promptly at 9 p.m. and I'll get it back at 8 a.m. I will not send or receive naked photos in the initial. I will not search for porn or anything I wouldn't want my grandma finding. Have some fun with it. And I know we need to embrace the awkward here. But from experience and talking to children who have unfortunately gotten in trouble in school and with cyberbullying, and I myself as a child was a cyberbully and I used it for the wrong reasons, I can tell you that I wish the awkwardness was embraced and we just went through these things and put it out on the table. So there are about 11 things here, and you just initial and have this conversation with your kids. So I'll share that with you after the presentation. Now, onto the mental health side, which is very, very important. I'm just going to look if there's any questions. Okay. If there are any questions about the safety piece, don't forget to just put them in the chat. And now the mental health side. This is where it gets complicated. So let's all take a breath. And when I say all of us, I just mean me. I know how that was a lot to take in. I think the slides will be available to you afterwards. It's a lot to take in. And if you're feeling as a parent confused, like if you feel behind, if you don't feel up to date with the latest tech and you don't know what's going on, that is the most normal feeling you could have as a parent in 2021. There is not one parent who has figured out this stuff. And the creators of Facebook and TikTok haven't figured it out. And our kids haven't figured it out. And our teachers haven't figured it out. This is one massive social experiment. And we all have no idea what we're doing. Now, it could be a scary thought and realization, but it could be also comforting. Like, you know what? We're all learning as much as we can, doing as much as we can with the information that we're given. That's the best we could possibly do as a parent, right? So let's all just drop the shoulders a little and know that what we're doing to the best of our ability is enough right now. It really is. And we're all doing the best we can. And there's so much to know. So when it comes to mental health, emotional well-being, here's how the social media really affects how we're feeling and why the phone, the rectangle of pixels is just so compelling and so addicting and so novel. This is how it works. And this is kind of what I get excited about. So mental health. First of all, how much time do we have? I'm just checking because I could usually, this is usually a 3-hour thing. 12:05. Oh my gosh, it's 12:05. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm just prioritizing here. Thinking of the best things to show you that will be most useful given the time. Okay, we'll skip this. Okay. There's a bunch, we'll start here. There's a bunch of studies you can look at when it comes to how social media is affecting our kids. And there's 3 big players in this game. There's Jean Twenge on the second point here. Jean Twenge, Jonathan Haidt, and Keith Campbell. And they've been doing multi-generational studies since the 90s. It's amazing. And if you have a bit of time, they wrote amazing books, and I'll share the links with you at the end. But what I used to do is I'd share graphs like this, depressive symptoms. Look at how it increases after 2010, right? Screen time, 11 to 13-year-olds, 14 to 17-year-olds, more screen time studies, lack of curiosity when using our phones and social media more. But this is the one thing that I'd like to stop on and take some time with here for a few things to sink in for us, and then show you a few things we can do. But awareness first. Before we change behavior, we need to be self-aware. We can't change behavior without self-awareness. So from 2009 to 2017, hospital visits for self-harm, for orthorexia, which means the obsession with clean eating, right? Anorexia rose by 78% for people aged 13 to 17. Now, what the hell happened from 2009 to 2017? Does anyone want to unmute and let me know what happened in 2009? Does anyone want to know?
Smartphones.
Smartphones?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to know 2009? Anyone else want to take a guess? Thank you for saying smartphones. That is one thing as they continued to get better and better. But the big thing happened here in 2009. That the photo only platform came out, the first social media platform that was photo only, that increased the ranking of pictures of bodies and faces. That if you uploaded something about with your body and your face, you got more likes. In 2009, Instagram came out, and Instagram is one that makes us question our body, our life choices, what we look like, what we're doing, because it was the first photo-only platform, which then involved video. It was the fastest growing, other than TikTok today, the fastest growing social media platform. So we think mental health and mood disorders are increasing because we're talking about them more and we're more open about them. That's like the reductive reasoning model. No, because if we look at hospital visits, something that no one really talks about, these are increasing behind the scenes. This is something that we need to talk about with social media and mental health. And I don't know the name of the person, I can't see the participants, but thank you for saying the smartphone. That was 2 years before. The smartphone came out in 2007. And this is from Jean Twenge's work, one of the people that I mentioned before. In 2007, the iPhone was released and people reported feeling lonelier than ever before. Hear me out, hear me out. Why the heck did that happen? These devices that are supposed to make us feel more connected than ever before, and personally, and I know with our kids and probably a lot of you, thank goodness we have this during COVID, right? Served us well for a lot of time. But far before COVID, the loneliness epidemic was real. And ever since then, kids said, no, I feel more lonelier than ever before, even though I have this thing that connects me to the world. Now, how does this relate to social media? Loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the feeling that what you do and share doesn't matter to anyone. If there's anything you remember from this presentation, it's this. This is the epidemic. Depression, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, social isolation, social phobia. Loneliness isn't something that we're talking about. We're talking about broken brains. We're talking about neurotransmitters. We're talking about mental health, even just to make it clinical. We're not talking about emotional health. We have to put mental in there. This isn't only a clinical and a clinician's game. This is something that we're all a part of when it comes to social media and mental health. People were reporting feeling lonelier than ever before, way before COVID. That's why people in New York City and Toronto feel lonelier than ever before. People who walk into their offices and they're surrounded by people feel lonely, report feeling lonely. Us at the dinner table with our families, some people report feeling lonely because they're not seen, because they're not heard. When it comes to children, what does a child need more than anything in the world? We want attention and we want the permission to be our authentic selves. We need attachment to our parents and those that seem to love us. So we want to be understood, we want to belong, and we want to be loved. Okay, we want to be understood, we want to belong, and we want to be loved. Okay. Now a child and your children get social media. They go on group chats. They finally have a public or even a private account to Facebook or TikTok. They upload something to a group chat. They upload something to Instagram and they say, Mom, Dad, I uploaded my first thing. And maybe they don't tell you, but they know within themselves, I uploaded it. And oh my gosh, the Facebook audience network has 2 billion people who can see my photo. My group chat, there's 10 people in it. I'm sharing part of myself. I'm expressing myself to my friends. I'm showing who I am to the world. Here we go, world. Here comes Samantha. And they post it. And it gets 3 likes. They post it to the group chat and people don't respond for 2 days. They post to the group chat. 1 person likes it out of 20 that are in the group, in the class. They post to Instagram, has a potential to reach 2 billion people. And 6 people liked it. Well, obviously me as Samantha, as a 12-year-old, 16-year-old, 28-year-old, obviously what I do and what I share doesn't matter to anyone. Not just my family, but 2 billion people don't give a shit about me. Now put that weight and that reality in the mind of a child, let alone people who are in their 30s like myself. I had to leave social media in December because I couldn't take it. I was on it for so long. And that's what I was thinking. I would get thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching my videos, and it wasn't enough. If I got 100,000 yesterday and only 50,000 today, I messed up. I did something wrong. The muscles of the critical mind in our kids are strengthened and the compassionate, understanding mind are being weakened through the use of social media if we're not using it in the way that's best for us. Now, you could put these things together in the mind of a child and think that makes perfect sense. Why do we use social media? To be heard, to be understood, to belong to something. We want to be seen. Social media is used for kids. What our kids want is for us to post something and they're saying, hey, world, look at me. Hi, Look at what I'm doing. That's it. That's what adults are doing too. Hey, I went to Hawaii. Hi, I had 3 kids. Hi, I just had a newborn. Look at what I'm doing. We want to be seen. That's the human condition. We're social species, right? If we look at that only for self-esteem, that's getting the wrong source for us, where it's always external and these extrinsic goals rather than intrinsic goals. We need to understand this from a child's perspective. So, timing. I know this is a lot and I'm speaking fairly quickly. This person, what a good looking man. First of all, amazing salt and pepper. Obviously his name is John Cacioppo, because you knew he was Italian before I even put the picture up. So John Cacioppo wanted to study loneliness. And I'll summarize this really quickly. He's a social neuroscientist. He wanted to see what happens when kids and adults feel lonely. He did all of these experiments. What happens physiologically when children feel lonely? What happens? What happens when, I'll go full screen. What happens when we feel that what we do and we share doesn't matter to anyone? Physiological responses. So he followed these kids around for months and months and months. And when children reported feeling lonely, he gave them a clipboard, he gave them a beeper, he gave them a tube, heart rate monitor, and a bunch of probes that he put on them. And when kids reported feeling lonely, he asked them to spit in the tube. And he asked them to write down all these things. When he collected all of the data from parents, from CEOs, CFOs, teachers, children, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 18-year-olds, when all of these groups reported feeling lonely, he looked at the data and he's like, it's like they're being physically attacked. That's what's happening inside of them. All it was they reported feeling lonely. He asked them to spit in the tube so he could get their saliva and measure their cortisol levels. Cortisol levels shoot through the roof when we feel lonely. Our adrenal glands squeeze at psychological stress, but enhance physiologically. He measured their heart rate. Heart rate shoots through the roof when we feel lonely. Blood pressure, put all the probes on the kids. Blood pressure shoots through the roof when they feel lonely. It's no wonder we keep going back to these devices because we think it's the cure to loneliness. Meanwhile, it gives us a quick hit if we get what we want from it, a certain amount of likes, views, attention. And if we don't, physiological response to loneliness hits our bodies like a tidal wave. And this is known in science for the last 20 years. But now as loneliness is really becoming an epidemic since social media, in the smartphone since 2007, we need to recognize these symptoms in our kids. What happens when our child comes home, is on the phone, is short with us, and goes right into the room and shuts the door? They're angry, they're stressed, they have anxiety disorders. Well, increased blood pressure, increased heart rate, sweaty palms, cortisol levels throughout our entire body, creating shakiness, an inability to sleep. Sounds like anxiety to me. Now, anxiety as the umbrella term for our children. What's underneath the umbrella? Loneliness. That's maybe a root, but we say anxiety. We go after the anxiety rather than looking at the loneliness piece. And are our children getting what they need as far as knowing that what they share and do really matters, that they're getting the attention they seek in the right way? So what do? Please feel free to take a picture of your screens here. This really helped me as I work with children one-on-one and talk to them about social media. And they ask me questions about being a creator and why I chose to leave social media and how I feel like a completely different person now that I don't look at content. You only know how much it's affecting you when you leave, right? So when I speak to kids, and as I've humbly reached millions of kids around the world, I've received hundreds of thousands and thousands of emails over the last 10 years, okay, from kids. And the kids say, Scott, I loved your videos on anxiety and mental health and social media. And they say, I'm just so anxious. I'm so depressed. You know, there's a theme in all of these emails. And I say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Thanks for being so open. Have you talked to your mom or dad about this? It's someone in your family? And the child says, they won't understand. You know, that's the response I get all the time. They just won't understand, Scott. They just won't get it. But I know every parent watching, although you don't get it, you want to, and you want them to come to you, and you are seeking to understand. And when working with kids and hearing from them, the command and control parent, that's parents from 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They're looking more for a coach-like parent and a thinking partner as a guide. This doesn't mean best friend. Never be your child's best friend. We know that. But a thinking partner, a guide, a mentor to still discipline, to still exchange the difference between right and wrong and morality, but not to say just there's no awareness. Sometimes, yes, do this because I said so. Yes, I know better. Yes, but there's a balance between these two. What children are more looking for, especially when it comes to understanding and explaining the social media and loneliness piece, if you want to have that discussion, actively listening, seeking to understand, acting like you have no idea what school is like today. You have no idea what's going on in their mind. You have no idea what it's like to be a kid. We project what it's like to be a children based on our experience as a child, but it's totally different. It's a new world they live in, a totally different world. So if we seek to understand and ask questions, there's more ability to be open. So that's the thinking and coach-like parent there. And this is what it kind of looks like. And here's what I used to do in my work, but also even at Twitter. You know, when people come to me, and my boss did this as well at my ad agency, if you go to him with a problem or you just want to talk to him, you know what he would do and know what I do now? It's the best thing ever. Hey, Jeff, I want to talk to you. He goes, shuts his laptop down. He takes his phone, puts it in his desk, puts it on airplane mode, puts it in his desk, turns to me, crosses his legs. Yeah, Scott, what's up? Oh, do you feel heard and seen that you are 100% of their time and interest in that moment? But what do? We have the phone on the kitchen counter. We have the phone on the dinner table. It's turned upside down, but it's still on, and you hear a ping. Oh, what are we expressing to our kids? It's like, yeah, I'm here, but I'm like 90% there. I'm 80% there. There's subliminal messaging here, right? So it looks something like this. It's like in a state of depression, not meaning a mental illness, but what does depression mean? It's the suppression of authenticity. It's the compression of emotion, technoference of having the phone on the table all the time, in a state of loneliness and isolation. Can we create environments that are attentive and curious?
Sorry, Scott.
Compassion.
Sorry, Scott. We can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Oh, thank you for unmuting and sharing that. Here we go. Did you see this before?
No, the one where you said take a screenshot is when you stop sharing. So we
Here
never
it is.
saw.
Thank you very much. Here it is here. This is what I was, the command like, and then thinking partner. And this is out of the book. I used to do presentations with an amazing woman, Kirsten Siggins. And she wrote a book called The Power of Curiosity. And you can look that up if you like. This is off of one of the pages there that we always share with parents. And then it looks something like this, right? So depression to expression to connection, where we now invite this sense in our home of non-judgment and compassion. And non-judgment is a really hard one. And that's one I struggle with, man. My goodness, because I'm just like, kids, just put away the phone. What are you doing? You're making yourself miserable. Honestly, it's hard to like take a step back and really just detach with non-judgment and only seek to understand. Like we're the blank slate and to only absorb what's going on. And when we create an environment of expression like that, that's the ultimate thing that we all want in life, not just parent to child, but human to human. We want trust. We want people to trust us, and we want to trust others. And we want to be able to be open and honest. And we want to have that sense of understanding, belonging, and the need and want to be loved. And that's social media in a nutshell. We go into the tracking, we go into the algorithms, we go into the usage and the screen time statistics and all of that. But what does this whole thing actually mean? It's our longing to belong. That's what the whole thing is, man. That's what these things, they got us right where they want us. That we want more than anything as human beings to belong, to be understood. But what do? We make backyards with decks and we hang it in our backyards. We don't even know our neighbors. We go into condos and we don't even know the people next to us. We text instead of phone now. We bail instead of committing. So the belonging piece is what we all want. It's what our kids want more than anything. It's the understanding. It's, you really see me? Man, when I meet someone and they are just in the pocket and they listen and we exchange ideas back and forth, it's organic. It's not forced. You meet, it's an emotional relationship. That's almost romantic to a degree, no matter what the gender is, no matter what the relationship, a coworker, a parent, another child. That's what we're all after. We just don't know it. And we think that this was the means to an end. That's not it. All of this social media is around our human basic psychological needs. And it doesn't end here. This is a platform to maybe exercise some of those ideas, but then to meet in person and see how that changes how we feel. So I'd love to take any questions. There is one more slide that might come up in a Q&A, and I can explain that. But any questions, please feel free to unmute. And I can look at the chat as well to see if there were questions beforehand. And if you also need to see a slide again, I can share my screen and I can put that up as well.
Hi, Scott. It's Zamani. Thank you very much. I did put my question in the chat, but I'll just ask you here. I just said with ad agencies knowing or setting these scripts in motion, as you have talked about, how do they sort of rationalize the social experiment they're conducting? How come they set up these scripts to capture this information on their end, which is great, but they don't give us as parents the options to opt out? Because that's my biggest issue that I have right now. I can't stop the train necessarily that's coming, but I can make my son aware of the fact that it's on its way, kind of thing. And I can't put up any guardrails or anything like that, you know? So
yeah.
So they don't feel a way about doing that, knowing that they're doing that.
So that's why Mark Zuckerberg and all of these tech CEOs, first of all, Steve Jobs, all the tech CEOs, even Elon Musk, even so the Snapchat creator, Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter, they don't give their kids tech until they're like 12.
I heard that.
I know. And I knew Jack Dorsey because I worked with him at Twitter. And I'm like, bro, that's serious. He's like, yeah. So what we're doing to others, you know, they can opt out by not downloading it. But we know as a society and as kids, it's like everyone else is doing it. And then that loneliness, it's the given, like, and then that would make me more lonely maybe if I'm the only one in school that doesn't have it. And I know that complication. So Apple came out and said, there are certain things that we're not allowing Facebook and social media to track. And you can opt out of that when your kids download the platform, if they have an iPhone. So that's good about Apple. So there's less they track, but they still do with that Facebook pixel I showed you. The thing about Zamani, the thing about this presentation is, okay, we focused on a lot of the harms here, but it's really just about the loneliness piece, right? That's really what it's about, and the physiological effects of us needing to belong, and we're using these to do it. If this can be used, if your kids are using it and they feel a sense of attachment and belonging to others with a balance of in-person play and unorganized play, with structure and then a little bit of freedom and floating at the same time, this is no problem. Like really. So know what it's being used for. But if we always use these in isolation and when we're scrolling through TikTok and just not knowing what we're doing and there's no chat between friends, then that's the concern, right? So that it depends on the child and what the family and what the home is like. But there is really no, to answer your question, there's no like opt out. As far as social responsibility, that's why Mark Zuckerberg is in the Supreme Court in the US trying to explain this. He's like, yes, it's in the terms and conditions, but nobody reads the terms and conditions. Not my problem. It's messy. It's messy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thanks for coming. Does anyone else want to unmute? And if not, I'll go to the chat.
I just like to ask, like, I have a 10-year-old kid who he's not like, he does lots of online gaming like Minecraft and stuff like that, and he's on his friends with like on Discord and stuff so that he can socialize with his friends at the same time. And I don't have a problem with that, especially considering the last 18 months of isolation. He doesn't really seem particularly interested in social media at this point, but I just wonder kind of like when that turns the corner. And like, I've also like seen the data that links having a phone and social media to suicide rates in teens and how detrimental it is to their mental health. And how do we make it so that it's not the norm that, you know, a 12-year-old has a cell phone? Like, how do we make it so that this isn't?
Yeah. Well, a lot of parent committees, depending on the school, they'll kind of work together in the school, because you can't be like everyone in Canada, no 12-year-olds. It's like you have to do it in the community. If your son's using Discord and gaming, like that was me as a kid, although we didn't have Discord, I was a huge gamer. And when you look at these stats, it really, of social media affecting kids, vast majority is young girls. Guys usually don't have much of an issue because the way women, okay, generally speaking, but not really, the way girls will bully is to invite others into the social circle, but ruin their social reputation. That's how girls bully. Boys will use violence and more physical things. So it's perfect for girls. And then the extreme body comparisons and all of that. So with boys, it's different with social media. They usually use it for games, having fun. That with women, it's different. How do you make it the norm? I'd say one is the parent committee. Second is, my gosh, I think I'm probably biased because it's the presentation, but I think this is a good first step, like to actually sit down, go through the phone contract, go through the Google Takeout with them, show them the data collection, show them the Facebook pixel, be like, okay, man, like everything you do isn't in isolation, even though you're in the room or on the couch chilling. This is what happens. Another thing I would love all of you parents to ask your kids, if they have social media, especially TikTok, but even YouTube, ask them after a day, ask them at the end of the day at dinner. So tell me every video that you watched today. They won't be able to name 5. Meanwhile, they watched about 150 and they unlocked their phone. The average person unlocks their phone like 250 times a day. So especially on a weekend or if they have downtime, 15-second videos, they're watching about 15 a minute. They won't be able to name 3. And that will really be like, whoa, oh my, what did I do? And ask them at the end of the week. Okay, so you watch 400 videos this week. Tell me 10 of them. That's a really good experiment to get them thinking. We need to get them thinking about these things on their own and questioning this on their own. Because just like me, as I was a kid, I don't want to listen to mom. So I hope that answers a bit of your question. I agree, Valerie, that within the last 18 months, and even now, I wouldn't put on any massive changes or restrictions, you know, like we're still getting into the groove. The last 18 months were hard. We don't want to flip anything right now. And there needs to be that understanding and compassion there. But I think if kids can learn it themselves, that's the best way. It's always the best way. And Utan, I'll answer that as well in the chat. when I speak to kids, I also ask them to do pre and post scroll check. And if you found that this presentation was cool and you thought it'd be cool for your kids to hear from me, maybe ask if you're in touch with the school or the parent groups, the parent committee, or, you know, the teachers. I'd love to present to your kids as well. But one of the things I ask them when I do the presentations to them is do a pre and post scroll check, meaning note how you feel before you go on your phone out of 10. I feel like a 7 out of 10. It was a good day. Now I'm just going to go for a stroll around the block. And then after you scroll for a half hour, after you're on your phone, DMing or gaming, doesn't matter. Note how you feel out of 10 then. And kids will do this for like a week, and we get nerdy and we'll like plot like a chart. It's like, okay, before phone use, after phone use. It's like, oh, I actually feel better after I use my phone because I was chatting and we were talking about school and we were talking about sports and we were sending funny gifts. Like that's what it was. We were sharing memes. And maybe you felt worse because you were just looking at Instagram and this dude's in Barbados and you're stuck with a mask on in school. So then they get the realization, oh, it's not just the rectangle. It's what I do on the thing that makes a difference in how I feel. It's asking these questions. So you could do that experiment with your kids, the pre and post scroll check. Okay. Utan asks, is it appropriate for a 10-year-old boy to have a Snapchat account? So you can create private TikTok accounts. You can create a parental lock on YouTube, and you can create somewhat a private Snapchat account. But remember, remember what I said, that everything can't be deleted when you share things on social media, and kids get into the idea that Snapchat, since the video and picture go away after I send it after a few seconds, that it's gone. Again, that's wrong. We know that people can screenshot them, but it stays in the server. And then if it's something inappropriate, the authorities have the right to go in and find the evidence. So a 10-year-old, the legal age for a Facebook account is 13. So Snapchat, like a lot of parents would wait, but you're not a lot of parents. Every family's different. So if you feel like that's appropriate, that's under your discretion and what they're going to use it for. The big thing with body dysmorphia and orthorexia with girls and even boys too is changing your face with Snapchat, and they're always looking at themselves through a filter. As an adult, you know what you've looked like for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years. As a kid, you're changing your face already. So it depends what they're using it for. Okay. Hello, Manju or Manu. How do you talk to young children under 10 about the dangers online without scaring them? It's not about scaring them. It's just literally sharing the reality of the situation. That's it. The reality is, if you use it in an inappropriate way, then the authorities can be involved, and here are examples. And one thing I tell them about is my personal story, because there's relatability not in statistics with kids. It's too big a thing. Who cares about statistics? They want to know real life stories. So I tell them the story how I was a bully. Usually in schools, they have people coming in who were bullied who share their story. No, I was the guy putting people down using MSN Messenger, if we all remember that, as a bullying device, right? We need to know, okay, so there's a platform that's neutral in nature, and I used it for something terrible. Meanwhile, you can use social media, something neutral in nature, an iMessage, and you can use it to lift someone up, to make them have a better day, to spread positivity rather than negativity. And when kids get excited about the potential of a platform, what it can do for them, but also, since kids, you have to teach them to share a lot of the time, but what can they do for others in that way, and get excited about this idea of community and the antidote to loneliness of self-expression and sharing. And when we share, we feel like what we do matters and that we're seen. And I talk to kids like, what's the best part about Christmas, everyone? Or whatever holiday or your birthday. It's like, well, when I get a gift, the first thing I want to do is I want to like share. I want to tell everyone what I got for Christmas. That's the best part of it, because we can only experience so much happiness within ourselves. There's a limit. And what do we like to do? We got to give it. When we talk to kids about this, it's like, you can use social media. I'm not going to scare you into the facts and figures, but you can share that. If you're having a good day, you can share that. You know that, right? Like, that's a cool thing. I think the slideshow will be shared. I'm not sure. I know this is being recorded. I didn't talk to the supervisor here about sharing the slides because some of it is a little private. So Anika, if you send me a message, I'll give you an update there. Here's my email. If anyone wants to get in touch, I'll put in the chat. And then my website, you can just Google Scott Ste. Marie, and then there's my podcast, which I think you'll find really interesting. There's a lot of people on there, psychologists, doctors, advocates, other influencers. You might find a lot of that helpful. Is there any other questions? Does anyone would like to unmute or ask anything in the chat? Thanks, Zamani. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for spending their Sunday with me the last hour and a bit. That means a lot. I know you could be doing a lot of other things, and there's a lot to do when you're a parent, and you chose to be here and to learn about this, and that is incredible. A lot of parents don't take the time to invest in learning about this, and I know your kids will be better for it. And I will get that phone contract to you. I need to send it to one of the organizers, and I'm not sure if you're on an email list, but I'll be sure to get that to you because I think that's a really cool tool to go through with your kids. And if you have any questions, you have my email. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And that was a crazy last 18 months. So, woo, good job. Way to go. And I know the hardest parts are behind us, hopefully. So thanks a lot. Keep up the great work, and namaste. Thanks, everyone.